Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The bathroom smelled like cheap disinfectant and old tears. The scent of desperation clung to every cracked tile. Sophie had always hated this place. The echo of her footsteps, the flicker of broken lights overhead, the way the air seemed to freeze around her. It was where she always ended up after they found her. After they made her feel like less than nothing, she stood at the sink, trembling hands pressed to the cold porcelain. Her reflection in the mirror was a mess of tangled hair, tear-streaked, cheeks and eyes too big for her thin face. Her backpack lay on the floor, its zipper half open, its contents spilled across the dirty tiles. A math textbook, a tattered notebook, a small red pen her mother had given her last year, before things had gone so wrong. She clutched the pen like a lifeline, her knuckles white. Every muscle in her body ached with exhaustion, with the weight of too many days spent trying to disappear. But today they hadn't let her. It had started in the hallway, the same place it always did. She'd been gathering her things, head down, hoping to slip past unnoticed. But they'd seen her. Claire, with her glossy hair and sharpened nails, had smirked. Naomi, tall and mean-eyed, had folded her arms across her chest. Kara, always the loudest, had let out a laugh that made Sophie's skin crawl. "Hey, Mouse," Claire had sneered, using the nickname that always made Sophie's stomach twist. "Where do you think you're going? We're not done with you yet." Sophie had tried to walk away, but Kara's hand shot out, grabbing her shoulder. She'd spun Sophie around, making her drop her books. Pages fluttered like dying birds. Her stomach had dropped with them. "Look at this mess," Naomi had said, voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Poor Sophie can't even hold on to her own stuff." Claire had crouched down, her smile a blade. "Pick it up," she'd ordered, her tone syrupy sweet. "Pick it up and apologize for making us look at your garbage." Sophie's eyes had blurred with tears. She'd bent down, reaching for her notebook, but Claire had snatched it first, flipping it open to the first page. "Dear Diary," Claire read in a mocking tone. "Oh my God, she writes in a diary like a baby. I hate them. I wish they'd all—" Sophie had lunged for it, but Kara had stepped in, shoving her hard. She'd fallen against the lockers, pain shooting up her side. The world had gone. Fuzzy, the laughter echoing in her head. "Or did we hurt the little mouse?" Naomi had cooed. "What are you gonna do, Sophie? Cry, tell the teacher?" Claire had flipped through the pages, voice cold. "No one cares, freak." She'd grabbed the red pen from Sophie's backpack. "Let's make sure everyone knows exactly who you are." She'd uncapped it and scrawled across Sophie's forearm in angry, jagged letters, "Freak." The word burned like fire. Sophie had stared at it, tears falling. Something inside her had cracked. Claire had thrown the pen down at Sophie's feet. "Now everyone will know. You're worthless, just a freak." Sophie had stared at the pen, the one her mother gave her, the one that meant something. She'd reached for it slowly, her fingers trembling. Her mind had felt like it was underwater, everything moving in slow motion. She'd picked up the pen, gripping it tight, her knuckles white. The laughter had felt distant, hollow. Her pulse had roared in her ears. Claire had leaned in close. "What are you going to do, Sophie? Stab me with it?" She'd let out a sharp, ugly laugh. Sophie's vision had narrowed, the edges turning red. Without thinking, she'd lunged forward. The pen, sharp enough, had connected with Claire's arm, tearing through the thin fabric of her designer blouse. Blood had bloomed in a bright, shocking line. Claire had screamed, stumbling back, clutching her arm. The laughter had stopped. Naomi's face had gone white. Kara's mouth had hung open in a silent scream. Sophie had stared at the red on the pen, her own hand shaking. The world had gone still. Every sound, every movement, it all felt suspended in time. Then the screams had started. "Oh my God!" Kara had shrieked. "She's insane!" "Sophie, what did you do?" Naomi had cried, grabbing Claire's arm, trying to stem the bleeding. Sophie had backed away, heart pounding like a war drum. She hadn't meant to. She just wanted them to stop, to leave her alone. But now there was blood. Real blood. She turned and ran, tears blurring her vision. She'd burst into the bathroom and locked the door, leaning against it, gasping for breath. The pen still clutched in her hand. Now, as she stood there staring at the red ink, no, blood, her mind raced. She'd never wanted this. She just wanted to be left alone. But it was too late for that now. The monster they'd created in her had finally awakened. A sound outside made her jump. The door handle rattled. Voices, familiar voices, filtered through. "Claire, let me see. Does it hurt?" Naomi's voice trembling. "Of course it hurts, you idiot," Claire snapped, but her voice cracked. "It's bleeding. A lot. She's in there," Kara whispered. "What if she tries to—" "Shut up," Claire hissed. "We have to talk to her. We didn't mean—" The door creaked open. Sophie froze, the pen slipping from her grasp and clattering into the sink. Claire stood in the doorway, face pale, blood staining the sleeve of her once perfect blouse. Her eyes, usually sharp and cruel, were wide with fear. "Sophie," she began, but her voice broke. "We didn't mean—" Sophie met her gaze, the pain and rage boiling inside her. "Didn't mean what?" she asked, her voice low and dangerous. "Didn't mean to humiliate me? Didn't mean to treat me like garbage every single day? Didn't mean to carve freak into my skin?" Claire's lips trembled. I'm sorry," she whispered, voice cracking. "I didn't think—" Sophie stepped forward, shadows dancing around her. "You didn't think," she echoed, her voice gaining strength. "You never think. You never care." Naomi appeared behind Claire, eyes wide, face pale. "Sophie, please." But Sophie shook her head. "It's too late," she said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were trembling. "You can't just apologize and make it go away." Kara peeked around the corner, eyes rimmed with tears. "Sophie, we're sorry, okay? We're sorry. We didn't know." Sophie's laughter was soft, bitter. "Didn't know what? That I'd fight back? That I'd finally stop being your victim?" She picked up the pen from the sink, the red still wet, and held it up. "This was yours. You gave this to me." Claire shook her head, tears spilling over. "Sophie, please. We're sorry. We'll make it right. Just put it down, okay?" Sophie stared at the pen, the weight of every insult, every shove, every whispered word pressing down on her shoulders. She raised her eyes to theirs, her voice trembling but resolute. "No," she said, "you don't get to walk away from this. You don't get to erase what you did." She took a step forward, and the three girls stumbled back, fear etched on their faces. "Sophie, please," Claire begged, "please don't." But Sophie didn't stop. "You taught me how to be a monster," she whispered. "Now it's your turn to be afraid." Her hand shot out, the pen gleaming in the harsh light. The girls screamed. Darkness swallowed the room as the overhead lights flickered and died. Silence. Then the sound of footsteps fading into the distance. In the darkness, Sophie's voice echoed, low and calm. "No more freak." A faint glow came. From the hallway outside the girls' bathroom, a single flickering bulb struggling to stay alive. Sophie stood alone, the red pen still in her hand, her heart pounding so loud it almost drowned out the desperate whispers of the three girls who'd just fled. She pressed her back against the cold tiles, drawing in shaky breaths. The memory of Claire's tearful apology replayed in her mind like a broken record. "We didn't mean," they'd said. But their voices hadn't sounded like apologies. They'd sounded like fear, and that fear felt right. Sophie stared at the pen, the faint smear of blood at its tip. The same pen that had been her lifeline in so many lonely nights, now marked with evidence of her defiance. She'd finally stood up for herself, finally made them listen. But at what cost? A distant echo of footsteps in the hallway snapped her attention back. She tucked the pen into her backpack and crept toward the door, every muscle taut. She didn't want to be found like this, like a monster, with trembling hands and blood on her conscience. She slipped into the hallway. The corridors were empty, except for a trail of dark red droplets smeared across the linoleum, Claire's blood. Sophie's breath hitched, guilt stabbed at her chest. She hadn't meant to hurt her that badly. But hadn't she? "Sophie!" a voice called out. Low and urgent. Sophie spun around. It was Mr. Daniels, the assistant principal, tall, broad-shouldered, with a kind smile that rarely reached his tired eyes. His expression tonight was anything but kind. His brow furrowed, eyes scanning the empty hallway before landing on the smear of blood on Sophie's sleeve. "Oh my God, Sophie, what happened?" His voice was sharp, but his eyes were filled with genuine concern. Sophie's lips trembled. They were hurting me," she stammered. "They wouldn't stop, and I—" Mr. Daniels raised a hand. "Slow down," he said gently. "Who was hurting you?" Sophie's mind raced. Claire, Naomi, Cara. But would anyone believe her? Wouldn't they just see the blood and think she was the dangerous one? They've been bullying me for months," she whispered. "Today they took my stuff. They called me a freak. Her voice broke. "I just wanted them to stop." Mr. Daniels's face darkened. "Where are they now?" Sophie hesitated. "They ran. I don't know where." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Sophie, did you hurt them?" She looked down at her trembling hands. I didn't mean to. Claire, she tried to take my pen. Mr. Daniels let out a heavy sigh. "Okay, let's get you cleaned up, and then we'll call your parents." He reached out, but Sophie recoiled. "No," she gasped. "Please, they can't know." He paused, studying her face. "Sophie, there's blood. We have to report it. We need to make sure everyone is okay, including you." She shook her head frantically. "Please, no, you don't understand." Mr. Daniels' jaw tightened. "Sophie," he said, voice firm but not unkind. "This is serious. Come with me." She felt her heart lurch. Fear washed over her. If her parents found out, they'd be disappointed. Her mother would cry. Her father would sigh, muttering about how he'd known she was too soft for this world. She couldn't bear to see that look in their eyes. "Not again, Mr. Daniels," she pleaded, tears welling. "I'm sorry. I wanted to stop them." He gave her a sad smile. "I know, Sophie, but we have to do the right thing now." He reached for his walkie-talkie. "I need Nurse Thompson to the second-floor girls' bathroom. We have a student who's been injured, and bring security." Sophie's stomach dropped. "Security for her, like she was some kind of threat." "Mr. Daniels, please," she whispered, but he'd already turned away, his voice low and urgent as he gave directions. The hallway seemed to shrink around her. Shadows crawled along the walls. She thought of Claire's face, pale, afraid, of Naomi's eyes, wide and wet, of Cara's trembling lips. Had she really hurt them that badly? The pen burned in her pocket like a brand. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Two security officers, uniformed, grim-faced, appeared at the end of the hallway. One held a first aid kit, the other a radio crackling with static. Mr. Daniels gestured to Sophie. "Take her to the nurse," he ordered. "Make sure she's okay, then call her parents." Sophie's breath caught. "Please," she begged. "I just wanted them to stop." One of the officers, a woman with a kind face, gave her a sympathetic look. "It's okay, honey," she said gently. "We just need to make sure everyone's safe. Come on now." As they led her down the hall, Sophie glanced over her shoulder. Claire, Naomi, and Cara were nowhere to be seen. Just the faint smears of blood, like a trail of broken promises. In the nurse's office, the harsh overhead lights made everything look sterile and unforgiving. Nurse Thompson, a brisk woman with silver hair and tired eyes, dabbed at Sophie's sleeve with an antiseptic wipe. "Does it hurt?" she asked. Sophie shook her head. "It's not mine," she whispered. Nurse Thompson's eyes softened. "I know, sweetheart, but you're in shock. You need to breathe." Sophie stared at the floor, her mind a whirlpool of guilt and anger. She'd wanted to be strong. She'd wanted to make them afraid just for once. But now, everything was spiraling. Out of control. The door opened. Mr. Daniels entered, his expression tight. "Sophie, we've contacted your parents. They're on their way." Panic flared in her chest. "No, please," she pleaded. "I can't face them. Not like this." Mr. Daniels hesitated, his gaze softening. "Sophie, you did what you thought. It was right, but violence. I didn't mean to," she cried. "I just wanted them to stop." Nurse Thompson laid a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, honey. You're not a bad person. Sometimes people do things they don't plan to when they're hurt." Sophie shook her head, tears blurring her vision. "You don't understand. They made me feel like I didn't matter, like I was nothing. I just wanted them to hurt, like I hurt." Mr. Daniels sighed. "I understand more than you think, but now we have to make things right." Before Sophie could reply, the door swung open again. Her parents stood there, their faces masks of worry and confusion. Her mother's eyes were red, mascara smudged from crying. Her father's jaw was tight, his arms crossed over his chest. "Sophie," her mother whispered, rushing forward. "What happened? Are you okay?" Sophie couldn't find the words. The tears came, hot and unstoppable. Her mother gathered her into a trembling embrace. "Oh, baby," she murmured. "We're here now. We're going to fix this." Her father's eyes were hard, searching. "Did you hurt someone, Sophie?" The question landed like a slap. Sophie's breath caught. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Mr. Daniels stepped in. "There was an incident," he explained. "Sophie was defending herself, but Claire, one of the other students, was hurt. We're still investigating." Her father's eyes narrowed. "Defending herself?" He turned to Sophie, his voice low. "What did you do, Sophie?" Sophie's hands shook. I didn't mean to. I just wanted them to stop." Her father's face hardened. "You've got to be stronger than this," he said, his voice like ice. "This isn't how we raised you." Her mother's arms tightened around her. "Stop it!" she hissed at him. "Can't you see she's terrified?" Mr. Daniels cleared his throat. "We'll be doing a full investigation, but right now I think Sophie should go home. She needs rest, and we need to talk to the other students involved." Her father exhaled sharply. "Fine, but we'll be talking about this at home." Sophie closed her eyes, the weight of his words pressing down like a stone. She felt small, powerless, the same way she'd felt every time Claire and the others cornered her. As they led her down the hallway, past the watchful eyes of the other students who'd gathered to gawk, she caught a glimpse of Claire in the nurse's office. Her arm was bandaged, her face pale. Naomi and Kara hovered beside her, their eyes darting to Sophie like she was a bomb waiting to explode. For a brief moment their gazes met. Sophie saw the fear in Claire's eyes, real fear, and beneath that, something else. Regret? Shame? Sophie didn't know. But as she turned away, one thought burned through the fog of guilt and confusion. "They're afraid of me now," and that changed everything. In the back seat of her parents' car, the silence pressed down like a heavy blanket. Her father's hands gripped the wheel, knuckles white. Her mother kept glancing back at her, tears threatening to spill. "You know we love you, Sophie," her mother whispered. "No matter what." Sophie stared out the window at the passing darkness. "I know," she murmured. Her father's voice was hard. "We'll talk about what happened, but you need to know that violence is never the answer." Sophie's fingers curled around the red pen in her pocket. "Sometimes," she whispered, "it's the only way to make them stop." Her father turned sharply to face her, eyes blazing. "That's not how we solve problems." She met his gaze, her own eyes cold. "Maybe not for you," she said softly. "But it's the only thing that made them listen." Her father opened his mouth to argue, but the look in her eyes made him pause. For the first time in her life, Sophie felt a spark of power. The shy girl they'd always known was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who wouldn't be broken so easily. As the car sped through the night, Sophie leaned back in her seat, her mind racing. She wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. This was just the beginning. Sophie sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the cracked phone screen in her trembling hands. Her parents had retreated to their bedroom hours ago, leaving her in silence. The bruises on her arms ached, a reminder of the chaos she'd unleashed. Her mother's sobs had finally faded into a dull, suffocating hush. Outside, the night pressed in. The wind rattled the old window panes. Every creak of the house felt like a ghost, and every shadow in the corners seemed to whisper her name. She unlocked her phone, ignoring the dozens of unread messages from classmates. Some supportive, most filled with shock and thinly veiled accusations. But one message, from an unknown number, made her breath catch. "You think you're done with us? Think again." Her pulse skittered. She reread it, trying to convince herself it was a prank. But she knew that wasn't true. Claire, Naomi, Cara, they'd always found a way to strike from the shadows. A knock at the door made her jump. Her mother's voice, trembling. "Sophie, honey, are you okay?" Sophie swallowed hard. "Yeah, Mom, just tired." "Okay," her mother whispered. "Try to sleep." Sleep? How could she? Her mind was a kaleidoscope of memories. Claire's smirk as she ripped Sophie's journal from her bag. Naomi's hissed insults. Cara's laughter that echoed through the halls. She'd fought back once and they'd run, but now they'd regrouped. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. "Tomorrow. You'll pay." Her hands shook. She dropped the phone, the screen cracking further as it hit the floor. Her heart pounded. In her ears, they were coming for her, and this time she might not be strong enough. She rose and went to her desk, pulling open the bottom drawer. There, wrapped in an old scarf, was the red pen, the one she'd used that night. She picked it up, the weight of it cold and heavy in her palm. She didn't know what she was capable of anymore. That terrified her. The next morning, the school. Halls felt like a war zone. Whispers followed Sophie wherever she went. Some kids gave her a wide berth, others stared openly, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. At her locker, Naomi leaned against the metal door, arms folded, eyes cold. "You think you scared us?" she spat. "You think you can? Just wave that stupid pen and we'll run." Sophie met her glare, her stomach a churning mess. "I didn't—" Naomi's lips twisted into a sneer. "Claire's still in the nurse's office. Cara's too scared to come to school, and you—" She shoved Sophie's shoulder hard. "You're just a freak, a psycho. Everybody knows it now." Sophie clenched her jaw. "Leave me alone." Naomi leaned in, her voice low and venomous. "We're not done with you, Sophie. You think you're safe? You're not. Not even at home." A chill crawled down Sophie's spine. She turned away. But Naomi's words clung to her like a curse. "Better watch your back, psycho." Naomi stalked off, her laughter echoing down the hallway. Sophie slumped against the locker, breathing hard. She felt everyone's eyes on her, heard the whispers like, "Knives, did you hear? She stabbed Claire. She's dangerous. I heard she's been planning it for weeks." She squeezed her eyes shut. This wasn't supposed to happen. She'd wanted to stop them, to finally stand up for herself. But instead, she'd become the monster in their stories. Third period, English class. Mr. Howard's voice droned on, but Sophie couldn't focus. Her phone buzzed on her desk, another message from that same unknown number. "Tick-tock, Sophie. The clock's running out." Her pulse spiked. She glanced around. No one seemed to notice. She pressed her lips together, fighting the tears. Mr. Howard cleared his throat. "Sophie, are you paying attention?" She looked up. His eyes were kind but tired. "Sorry," she mumbled. He frowned. "See me after class." When the bell finally rang, Sophie packed her things slowly, dreading what came next. Mr. Howard motioned for her to stay. "Look," he said gently, "I know you've had a rough time, But you can't shut down completely. I'm here if you need to talk. Sophie shook her head. Thanks, but I'm fine. He sighed. Sophie, we're all worried about you. There's a darkness in you right now. Her head snapped up. I'm not a monster. I didn't say that, he said softly. But sometimes when we're pushed too far, we do things we regret. I just don't want that for you. Her eyes burned. They hurt me, she whispered, for months, and no one cared. Mr. Howard's expression darkened. I'm sorry. I wish I'd known. It's too late, she said, her voice a bitter whisper. I've already changed. He studied her, his eyes sad. Then let's try to change back. But she shook her head. It was too late for that lunch period. Sophie picked at her sandwich, appetite gone. She sat alone, her table a no-man's land of empty chairs. She could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on her. A sudden hush fell over the cafeteria. Sophie looked up and saw Claire. Her arm was bandaged, her face pale, but her eyes were fierce. She walked toward Sophie with Naomi at her side. A hush followed them, as if the entire cafeteria had frozen in time. Claire stopped in front of Sophie's table. You think you're strong, she said, voice cold. You think you can just do whatever you want and get away with it? Sophie stood slowly, her legs trembling. Claire, I didn't mean... Claire's eyes burned. You humiliated me. You made me bleed. And now everyone thinks I'm weak. I'm not weak, Sophie. Naomi stepped forward. We're going to prove it. Sophie's heart raced. What are you talking about? Claire's lips twisted into a cruel smile. Tonight, meet us behind the gym after school. We're going to settle this. Naomi grinned. Unless you're too much of a coward. Sophie felt a surge of anger. I'm not a coward, she spat. Claire's smile widened. Good, then we'll see you tonight. They turned and walked away, leaving the cafeteria buzzing with whispers. The final bell rang like a death knell. Sophie stood at her locker, staring at the red pen in her trembling hand. Behind the gym, tonight. A voice behind her made her jump. You don't have to go. She turned to see Mr. Howard, his face lined with worry. I heard what they said, he continued. This is a trap, Sophie. They're baiting you. Sophie clenched her jaw. They won't stop unless I stand up to them. Mr. Howard's eyes softened. And what happens when they push you too far again? You could get expelled, or worse. Sophie's hand tightened around the pen. Maybe that's the only way to make them stop. He shook his head. Violence isn't the answer, Sophie. Then what is? She demanded. They've ruined my life. No one did anything. No one cared. He reached for her arm, but she pulled away. Sophie, please, he said, voice trembling. You're better than this. But she wasn't sure anymore. The sun dipped low as Sophie made her way to the back of the gym. The shadows stretched long across the cracked pavement. Her heart pounded like a war drum. Claire and Naomi were already there, standing with arms folded. You came, Claire said, a twisted grin on her lips. Sophie's hand trembled around the pen. What do you want? Naomi sneered. We want you to know what it feels like to be powerless. Before Sophie could react, Naomi lunged, shoving her hard. She stumbled backward, nearly falling. Claire stepped forward, her eyes blazing. You made me bleed, Claire hissed. Now it's your turn. Sophie's breath came in ragged gasps. Stop, please. But they didn't. Naomi grabbed her arms, holding her tight as Claire raised a fist. Sophie's eyes widened in terror. But then something snapped. The red pen glinted in the dying light. Let me go, she screamed, her voice raw, in one desperate motion. She swung the pen, catching Claire's arm. Claire screamed, stumbling back. Naomi shrieked and let go. Sophie's own scream echoed off the walls, mixing with Claire's. Blood dripped onto the pavement. Claire clutched her arm, eyes wide. With horror, you psycho! Naomi gasped. Sophie staggered backward, tears streaming down her face. I didn't mean... Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called for help. Naomi fled, leaving Claire sobbing on the ground. Sophie fell to her knees, the red pen clattering to the pavement. Lights flooded the area. Security guards ran in shouting. Sophie looked up, her vision blurred. "Please," she whispered, "I just wanted them to stop." Mr. Daniels' face appeared in the glare of a flashlight, eyes full of shock and sorrow. "Sophie," he whispered, voice breaking. "What have you done?" Sophie's breath came in ragged sobs. She didn't know. All she knew was that everything had changed forever. Blue and red lights painted the gym's back wall as paramedics rushed Claire onto a stretcher. She was pale, eyes glassy with shock, clutching a bloodied towel to her arm. Sophie watched, her breath ragged, as the paramedics worked with quiet urgency. A uniformed police officer held her elbow, but Sophie barely felt it. Her ears rang with the echoes of her own scream. "I just wanted them to stop." And Mr. Howard's broken voice, "Sophie, what have you done?" Naomi was nowhere to be seen, having bolted as soon as Claire had hit the ground. Mr. Howard stood by Sophie's side, his face grey under the harsh lights. "Sophie," he said, his voice trembling, "I need you to breathe. Can you do that for me?" She tried to nod, but her head felt too heavy. Tears blurred everything. The officer's voice cut through the fog. "Miss Lewis," he said, using her last name like a blade, "you're coming with us. We need a statement." Sophie's mouth went dry. She wanted to run, until the pain stopped, until the guilt stopped, but her legs wouldn't move. The police station smelled like coffee and cold metal. Sophie sat in a hard plastic chair, her hands cuffed loosely in front of her. A clock ticked on the wall, each second dragging like a lifetime. A young detective with tired eyes entered the room, a notepad in hand. His badge read, "Detective Harris, Sophie Lewis," he began gently. "Can you tell me what happened tonight?" Sophie's voice was barely a whisper. They cornered me behind the gym. Blair, Naomi, they were going to hurt me. I didn't mean to." Detective Harris leaned forward, his tone calm but firm. "Sophie, we have witnesses who saw you with a red pen. We have paramedics who said you attacked Claire." Sophie's hands trembled. "I didn't plan to hurt anyone," she said, voice cracking. I just wanted them to leave me alone." Detective Harris sighed, jotting notes. "Were there threats made toward you before this happened?" Sophie nodded. "They sent me messages. TikTok, Sophie. Stuff like that. I tried to tell people. No one listened." Harris studied her for a moment. "Sophie, I believe you were scared, but that doesn't make what happened okay." Tears streamed down her face. "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry." He closed his notebook. "We'll need to contact your parents. There's going to be an investigation. Right now, you're being detained for questioning, but that doesn't mean you're guilty. Do you understand?" She nodded, but his words felt like they were miles away. Her parents arrived an hour later, their faces pale and drawn. Her mother burst into tears the moment she saw Sophie in handcuffs. Her father's jaw was set, his eyes full of both worry and something else, something like disappointment. "Sophie," he said, voice tight, "what did you do?" Sophie shook her head. "I didn't mean to." Her mother stepped forward, voice shaking. "Baby, we'll get you help, okay? We'll get you through this." But Sophie wasn't sure help could reach her anymore. The next morning, news had already spread like wildfire. Social media exploded with rumors and half-truths. "Did you hear? Sophie Lewis stabbed Claire. She's a psycho, everyone says so. She planned it. She had that pen all week." Sophie scrolled through the posts with numb fingers, each word cutting deeper than any blade. A direct message popped up. Anonymous. "You thought you could win, but you're the real monster." Sophie's breath caught. She slammed the phone down, tears welling. Back at school, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Whispers followed her every step, some laced with fear, others with hate. She walked the halls like a ghost, the walls closing in. In the nurse's office, Claire was recovering, her arm bandaged. Naomi hovered by her side, her face a mask of loyalty and defiance. Claire's gaze locked on Sophie when she entered. "Look who finally decided to show her face," she spat. Sophie opened her mouth, but the words caught. Naomi crossed her arms. "We told you we'd make you pay. And guess what? Everyone sees you for what you really are now." Sophie's chest ached. "I never wanted any of this." Claire's eyes glistened with tears, some of them real, some of them bitter. "You ruined my life, Sophie. You made me bleed." Sophie's voice cracked. "You ruined mine first." Claire's face twisted, rage and pain mingling. "Maybe, but you're the one with the blood on her hands." A nurse stepped in then, ushering Sophie out before it could get worse. Sophie's parents were called to the principal's office that afternoon. Mr. Daniels, the principal, wore a grim expression. "We have to consider Sophie's future here," he said solemnly. "This is a serious incident. We can't just ignore it." Her mother's voice trembled. "Please, she's been bullied for months. She was scared. She didn't know what to do." Mr. Daniels sighed. "I understand that. But Claire's family is pressing charges, and the school board is recommending a suspension, possibly even expulsion." Sophie's world blurred. Expulsion, her parents' shocked faces, the thought of losing everything. Mr. Daniels continued, "Sophie, you need help, counseling, and maybe a fresh start somewhere else." Sophie's throat burned. "I didn't mean to hurt her," she whispered. Her father put a hand on her shoulder, but it felt heavy, like a stone. That night, Sophie lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another anonymous message. "We're not finished with you." She felt a chill. Was it Claire, Naomi, or someone else now? She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block it all out. But the darkness pressed in, suffocating. The next day, Mr. Howard called her aside after class. His eyes were tired but kind. "Sophie, I've talked to the administration. I've read your journal, the one Naomi stole and passed around. I know how badly you've been hurting." Sophie looked at her shoes. "It doesn't matter now. Everyone hates me." He shook his head. "It matters to me, and it should matter to you." She swallowed hard. "I can't fix this. I can't go back." He sighed. "No, you can't. But you can choose what happens next. You can decide whether this pain defines you, or whether you find a way to heal." Sophie's hands shook. "I don't know how." "Then let me help," he said softly. "Let's talk to your parents. Let's get you the help you need." For the first time in weeks, Sophie felt a tiny flicker of hope. Outside, the sun dipped low. Sophie's phone buzzed again. She braced herself for another threat, but this time it was from an unknown sender. "Please, Sophie, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just scared. Can we talk?" Her breath caught. The number was unfamiliar, but the tone was different, desperate, human. She texted back, hands trembling. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "Naomi." Sophie's heart lurched. Naomi met her by the old oak tree near the football field. She looked nothing like the venomous girl Sophie had known. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with tears. "I'm sorry," Naomi whispered. "I never thought it would go this far. Claire, she's always been the strong one. I just followed her lead, but you were always just trying to survive." Sophie's chest tightened. "Then why did you hurt me? Why did you help her?" Naomi's voice cracked. "Because I was scared of her, too. I thought if I stood with her, she wouldn't turn on me." Sophie's tears fell freely now. "She ruined me, Naomi, and you helped." Naomi nodded, tears streaming down. Her face, "I know, and I can't take it back, but I want to help you now. I want to tell the truth to the police, to the school, everything." Sophie's breath caught. "You'd do that, even if she hates you." Naomi's voice was steady, though her hands trembled. "I'd rather she hates me than live with this guilt. You didn't deserve this, Sophie." Sophie looked at her, a flicker of fragile hope in her eyes. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward. The confession had changed everything. Naomi's admission, raw and trembling under the old oak tree, shifted the world Sophie had known into something she could barely comprehend. For the first time in months, the weight of the lies and whispers felt lighter, though the scars ran deep. The next morning, Sophie stood in front of the school, backpack slung over her shoulder like a shield. Naomi had texted her late at night. "Meet me at the principal's office. I'm going to tell the truth." Sophie's stomach churned. Claire had ruled this place for years, her whispers shaping every hallway, every lunch table. Sophie had no idea what would happen next. Naomi stood outside the office door, her eyes red and swollen, but her posture steady. "Are you ready?" she asked. Sophie's voice was a whisper. "I don't know." Naomi took a deep breath. "We're doing the right thing." Inside, Mr. Daniels sat with Detective Harris, their faces a mixture of fatigue and curiosity. When Sophie and Naomi entered, the room seemed to shrink. "Naomi," Mr. Daniels said carefully, "you said you had something important to share." Naomi's voice trembled, but her words came out clear. It was all Claire. The threats, the notes, the photos. She made me help her. She said if I didn't, she'd ruin me too. Detective Harris leaned forward. "And the night Sophie injured Claire." Naomi swallowed. Claire cornered her. She grabbed her wrist and tried to cut her with that red pen. Sophie fought back. It wasn't supposed to happen. I swear Sophie didn't plan it." Sophie's breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Mr. Daniels looked grave. "This changes things." He turned to Sophie. "You've been through a lot. We'll need to verify everything Naomi said, but I believe we have a clearer picture now." Detective Harris nodded. "This doesn't erase the injury to Claire, but it does show she had a role in provoking it. We'll continue the investigation, but Sophie, you may be released to your parents while we sort this out." A wave of relief washed over Sophie, but also guilt. Claire had nearly destroyed her, but seeing Naomi here, broken and brave, reminded her that even the enemy could carry scars. Outside the office, Naomi wiped her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said again. Sophie managed a small smile. "You did the right thing." Naomi's voice trembled. "I don't know how to fix any of this." Sophie shook her head. "You can't, but maybe we can find a way to move forward together." Claire's world, however, was crumbling. Word of Naomi's confessions spread like wildfire. Students whispered in the hallways, their eyes darting to Sophie and then to Claire's empty desk. By lunch, the atmosphere was electric. A girl named Hannah approached Sophie hesitantly. "I'm sorry, Sophie," she said, her voice thick with guilt. "I should have said something. I believed Claire. Everyone did." Sophie blinked back tears. "It's okay," she said. Though it wasn't. Claire didn't come to school the next day, or the day after that. Instead, she sent Sophie a single, chilling message. "You think you've won? You have no idea what's coming." Sophie's chest tightened. Was it a bluff or something more? That evening, Sophie's parents sat her down in the living room. Her mother's eyes were red, but there was a fierce protectiveness in her posture. "We've decided to transfer you to another school," her father said, his voice steady. "We think it's best. A fresh start." Sophie's heart sank. "But," her mother took her hand, "you've been through enough. You need to heal. You deserve a place where you're not defined by this." Tears welled. She wanted to fight it, but deep down, she knew they were right. The night before her last day at Riverstone High, Sophie couldn't sleep. She walked the neighborhood, memories flooding back. The old library where she'd hidden from the bullies, the cafeteria where Claire's laughter had echoed every insult. She thought of Naomi, of Mr. Howard, of the teachers who'd turned a blind eye. She thought of the girl she'd been before the torment, quiet, shy, but hopeful. She didn't want to lose that part of herself forever. Her last day arrived with a hush, like the world was holding its breath. She turned in her textbooks, cleaned out her locker. In the courtyard, Naomi waited. "Hey," Naomi said softly. "Hey," Sophie replied. Naomi fidgeted with her bracelet. "I wish I could come with you," she whispered. Sophie managed a smile. "I'll be okay." Naomi's eyes shone. "You're stronger than any of us." Sophie's throat tightened. "Thanks." They hugged, quick but enough. As Sophie turned to leave, Mr. Howard stood by the main doors. He handed her a small envelope. "From me," he said quietly, "for when you're ready." Sophie took it, her fingers trembling. At home that night, she opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "Sophie, you are not the sum of what they did to you. You are more, stronger, braver, kinder, and one day you'll see that every scar was a map, showing you who you were meant to become. Keep going. You've already survived the worst." Mr. Howard, tears blurred her vision. She texted Naomi one last time. "I'm leaving tomorrow. I hope you find your own way to heal." Naomi's reply came quickly. "I will, and I'll always be sorry." Sophie closed her eyes. Maybe forgiveness would come one day. But for now, she needed to find herself again. The next morning, Sophie stood by the window as the sun rose, casting light over a world that felt new. She didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time in a long time, she felt the promise of hope, because sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. Sophie's new school felt like a different universe. The hallways smelled of fresh paint and possibility. No one whispered behind her back. No one called her names. She could walk down the corridor without feeling every eye on her. It was freedom, but it was also terrifying. Every time she reached for her locker, her hand trembled. She'd catch herself glancing over her shoulder, half expecting Claire's icy voice to slice through the air, but she wasn't here. Claire was still at Riverstone, facing the consequences Naomi had set in motion. Sophie had left it all behind, or so she thought. One afternoon, while gathering her books after class, Sophie's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "You may think you're free, but I know where you are. You'll never be rid of me." Her stomach twisted. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Then she saw the timestamp from last week. Her father had changed her number after they moved. Only a handful of people had it. It had to be from Claire. Her chest tightened. She remembered Claire's face, pale and cold, the day Sophie left Riverstone, spitting threats. But Sophie took a deep breath. She wasn't that frightened girl anymore. She deleted the message. Mr. Howard had been right. She wasn't the sum of what they did to her. In her new school, she found a small group of friends who didn't care about what had happened before. They liked her because she was kind and creative, because she made them laugh. She found a safe place in the art room, painting out the chaos that still lingered inside her. She painted a girl with tears in her eyes but a sword in her hand. She painted a shattered mirror with a new face staring back at her. She painted a sunrise that refused to be stopped. One evening, Naomi called. "Sophie," she said, her voice trembling. "Claire's leaving school." Her parents pulled her out. "She's moving." Sophie felt a wave of relief and something like pity. "Where?" "I don't know. Her dad got transferred or something, but she's gone." Sophie let out a slow breath. She should have felt triumph, but all she felt was empty. Claire had been a monster, but she'd also been a broken girl, desperate for power to hide her own pain. "I hope she gets help," Sophie said softly. Naomi let out a broken laugh. "You're a better person than me." Sophie felt tears prick her eyes. "You were brave enough to tell the truth." Naomi's voice was quiet. "I'm trying to be better. For you. For me." Sophie smiled, even though Naomi couldn't see. That's all any of us can do." The weeks turned into months. Sophie stopped looking over her shoulder so much. She focused on her art, on her friends, on rebuilding the girl she'd been before, but stronger. One day, she stood in front of her painting of the sunrise. She realized It wasn't about forgetting the darkness. It was about surviving it. And when still finding the strength to rise, on a rainy Saturday, she found a letter in her mailbox. The handwriting was unmistakable. Mr. Howard. Dear Sophie, I hope this finds you well. I heard from Naomi that you're finding your place at your new school. I'm so proud of you. I wanted you to know that Claire is receiving counseling. Her parents finally saw that something was deeply wrong. It's not an excuse, but maybe it's a start. You taught all of us something, Sophie. That strength isn't about fighting back with fists. It's about fighting back with truth and compassion. Never forget that you are brave, and never forget that you are loved. With pride, Mr. Howard, Sophie felt the tears come, but they didn't hurt. They felt like release. That night she wrote her own letter, this time to herself. Dear Sophie, you survived. You grew. You're still here. You are not what they did to you. You are what you choose to become, and you are stronger than any of them ever imagined. She folded the letter and slipped it into her sketchbook. At sunrise the next morning, she stood on the balcony and let the light hit her face. The past would always be there, but it wouldn't define her, because sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. And Sophie had found herself. The end.